Hi everyone, I'm back after taking a small break, but I finally got my camera set up, got all of my art supplies out, and today I'm going to make a video for you. We'll be painting a small Valentine's Day themed illustration. But before that, let me show you something cool that just arrived in my mail. Some of you must have seen on my Instagram page these little illustrations that I paint on my sketchbook. And as many of you requested, I'm about to create a Skillshare class to teach you how to paint these. But I also wanted to create stickers out of them for my Etsy shop. After the whole boring, tiring process of digitizing the art, my stickers have arrived from Stickerapp. They've sent me these beautiful stickers, gorgeous colors. This one has such a beautiful, smooth, silky finish to it. And I love how close to the illustration all the colors are. This one glossy finish, again a smooth finish. I love how they cut the cut lines so close, so not too much of white border around. And they were super convenient to talk to, and I could tell them what I exactly needed. So if you ever are looking for creating stickers, just check them out. And the whole process is really easy, and you can choose different kind of material, different finish on your stickers. Some are even transparent or metallic finish stickers as well. So do check them out, and I'm sure you're going to love their stickers and their service as much as I do. I'll be listing these stickers on my Etsy shop, where you can purchase them in the sets of 5 for your journaling, or to stick them on pretty things to make them prettier with these watercolor illustrations. Now let's get started with our illustration process and have a look at the supplies I'll be using today. For today's simple illustration, I'll be using simple art supplies. So in my color mixing plate, I've got crimson and some permanent carmine, so all my pinks and reds here. And then I've got violet, yellow, sap green and indigo here. And this is Art Philosophy's 24 confetti set. So I'll be using black and a color close to cobalt blue from it. This is number 4 Princeton round velvet touch brush. It's lost its point, but I still use it. Another number 3 pointed round brush and a fine detailing brush. Today I'm using Canson XL's 300 GSM cold press watercolor paper. I'll be using 1H pencil to sketch and a kneading gum to erase my sketch lines. So let's get started. We'll be creating a cute little bunny. So what I do is start up on top, create one little ear, and then an oval shape, slightly wider at the bottom and a bit more flat at the bottom. So a bit heavier bottom oval. Very light lines. I'll just refine it. You can create a better sketch earlier on a rough paper and then trace it. Then I'm adding 2 pointy ears, keeping them long. Little feet at the bottom. Keeping this illustration really simple. A small hand which will hold balloon. Another hand in front which will hold the flower. You can barely see my pencil lines because that's how light I want them to be, just to give me the guidance. And the eyes and little nose. Let's add little strings for balloons. After that, I also want a small crescent of flowers at the bottom here. You can use a compass to create a better curve than I am, but I want it to be pretty loose, so I'm just creating a curve with hand. So now let's start by coloring the shape of the bunny. I've got some tissues in my hand to soak excess water. I'll start by mixing the pink and the reddish mix I have with a bit of yellow, and then I'm going to kind of make a neutral color out of it by adding the color close to cobalt blue from the 24 confetti set. My brush doesn't have a lot of water, so excess water has been soaked up, and I'm just going to follow the shape. I'm not worried about very uniform wash, so if you would like a very uniform finish in your shape, then I would suggest going for a slightly bigger brush. Number 4 is a bit smaller, so you can go for like number 6 or something. But this suits me because I like the look of these multiple brush strokes in the shape. So I'm just covering all of the white, so it kind of gives a non-uniform wash, and that's the look I'm going for. And now I'm going to change the camera angle so that you can watch it better. So now our bunny's whole body is colored. Let's start adding little details to it. So we're going to first start by making a pink or reddish mix for the little heart-shaped balloons. You can make them bigger or smaller. I'm going to vary their size and also the composition of the pink mix. So some will be a bit more redder, some will be a bit lighter pink. You can add them in different colors. So I'll make this one a bit darker. I often get asked how do I decide on the composition. So it usually starts with one element, and then I think what that one element would be doing. So I wanted to create an illustration for Valentine's Day, and I thought of bunny because it's also close to Easter, and what that bunny would be doing would be holding something Valentine-ish. So it's got a flower and some balloons here. Now I'm using a mix of yellow and the reddish mix to create some orange hearts. So yes, I do plan these illustrations a little bit. I do think about them before I start. Sometimes I do create a small rough sketch, or sometimes it's mostly in my mind, especially for the daily Instagram videos. So now let's again create that same mix we created for the body, slightly different. So same yellow and reddish mix, and then adding that cobalt blue to it for a neutral color. And then I'm going to color the ears. So it's slightly different than the original mix because we lost the original mix, so I'm not able to match it exactly, and I'm not trying to either. Let the ears be a bit different. Now let's add a bit pink in the center while the ears are still slightly wet. My washes are not that soppy wet, so the color dries pretty fast on this paper. I'll smoothen the edges a little bit with a slightly wet brush so nothing bleeds awkwardly. And now let's add a little red nose here. Let's also create that same mix of yellow, red, and a bit of that cobalt bluish color for the hand and the feet. So little feet at the bottom, flat. It's a really simple illustration, so I'm not going to be creating multiple layers of details with it. So I'm just creating one wash, or at max 2. So both hands are in. Now we can get started with the belly, I'm going to color it with that sort of pink and reddish mix that I have. A bit darker belly. Just defining. Now let's create that flower. So I'm just picking a little bit of violet for the center. And now I'll change my brush to the thinner detail brush, and I'll just pick the yellowish mix. I'll remove excess water and then little thin petals for a flower close to sunflower, I guess. And then let's pick some green to add a little stem. Leave the hand so that it's like the hand is holding it. Little leaves. And now let's add the eyes. So I'm just picking some black, removing excess water, and little eyes. So little C shape. I'm always careful when making the eyes. And a little partition under the nose. I'll also give little blush marks, so just that pink color on the cheek, and then little dots for the follicles of the whiskers. Now let's attach the balloons to the hand with a string, so giving little piece of balloon at the bottom where it's tied, and now attach fine strings. You can make them straight or wavy, it depends what kind of air has been filled in the balloon and how windy it is. Don't forget to add the strings at the bottom. Now when I see this, I think balloons could have been a little bit bigger, but they're okay for now. So now bunny is done. I'm going to move on to the flowers. So I'm just picking some yellow and red to create a nice orangish color, and just making a very rough flower shape. Very generic rough round flower, very uneven edge. And now I'm going to pick sort of a watery yellow mix, and I'm going to add that to the center and let it bleed a bit. The water in the center is going to push the colors away a little bit, and it will give me a bit lighter center. And now with some red, I'm going to add little flowers around it. I'm trying to be a little symmetrical, but not very strictly symmetrical. So just balancing the flower elements on both sides. Now I'll just make my brush a bit thirsty and pick the center out a little bit, because I would like the center to be a bit more defined in this one. So just rinse your brush, dry it a bit, and run it along in the center. And now with some violet, I'm going to create 2 dots on each side. Leave some space between other flowers. And with some yellow, I'm going to create similar kind of flower that the bunny is holding, but a bit bigger in size. Now let's attach some green twigs. So I'm just adding a little bit of red to my green. Gives me sort of a warmer green and closer to brown. and just attaching the flowers, adding little leaves here and there. Again, not very symmetrical, but just balancing the things out on both sides. If you would like to achieve perfect symmetry, you can draw all of these elements beforehand and then use a tracing paper to create the other side. Or you can also do it digitally when you edit it. Now let's add some leaves to these twigs. I will most probably be digitizing this one and adding a little bit of background, so you can keep an eye out on my Instagram to see what I've done with this illustration. Now let's again create that brownish mix with red and some green to define the centers of these sort of sunflowers. Now I'm going to pick some black in my brush to add the centers to these little red flowers. So just very thick black mix and just small little centers. Now let's add little lilacs. So I'm just picking some violet in my brush and adding little dabs in an overall shape of maybe a cone or a triangular shape. So just a couple of dabs pointed up on top. Similarly on the other side. You can change the violet mix around to create a variation. Now let's add the center to this main big flower in the center. So I'm picking some black in my brush and I'm going to add it in the center in little dabs, leaving space in between them. Now let's add a few more leaves. Just attach these sunflowers to the main twigs and then add more leaves around. Very simple floral composition. Now let's darken up a few details in bunny. So I'm going back and picking some of that pink mix or reddish pink mix and darkening up the center of the ear a little bit. I'll also define the head of bunny a little bit with sort of an orangish mix. So just touching it and then with slightly wet brush running inside the edge so that I'm softening my brush stroke. So it just gives a bit better definition to the shape since our wash is so light. So I'm just picking a darker mix of orange and red, running it along the edge and then softening the inside part. I'll also darken up the feet. So again, same red and yellow mix with a touch of cobalt blue. Starting to bleed a little bit here, but I'll leave it like that. Now with slightly thirsty brush, I'm going to pick some highlights out of these balloons. So just wet your brush, dry it a little bit, and then just touch it on an earlier wash that is dried now and rub it a little bit and it will pick a little bit of color, so sort of a highlight on the balloon. You can also add white with a gel pen or white gouache with a brush for the same purpose. But that stands out a lot more than this does. This is a very subtle way of creating highlight. So now our little illustration is done. Let's wait for it to dry. Now that it's dried, I'll just pick some excess pencil marks with my kneading gum eraser. You can create another wreath up on top, something similar that's at bottom. You can create another one up on top or add some background here. Or you can even write a lovely message up on top. I really hope you enjoyed this little illustration painting process. And if you did, please hit that like button on this video. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. And I'll see you next time.